My parents took my younger sister on vacation instead of me, but she ruined the family trip and got arrested. Now my parents have finally seen her true colors. I am a 23-year-old woman with a younger sister, Lisa, who is 18 years old, and I consider her to be the embodiment of evil on earth. For years, I have tried my best to convince my parents to see the truth, but they never believed me, at least not until now. To provide some background, the relationship between my parents and me has always been somewhat tense, mainly because of Lisa. My parents adore her because my mother had a miscarriage and lost a baby, which deeply affected her. Lisa was born a few years later and was seen as their miracle child, a beacon of hope and joy, healing the pain of their previous loss. My parents poured love and attention into her, making her the center of our family universe. Now let me make it clear, when I was a child, I loved my sister, but I gradually began to realize that Lisa has an incredible talent for manipulation that my family could not understand. She knows how to twist stories to her advantage, and she is a master at playing the victim card. There was a time, on my birthday, when I received a wonderful antique pocket watch from my grandparents, and I was very happy because my grandmother told me it was a family heirloom, but Lisa, who was obviously jealous, kept asking if I could share it with her. I said no because it was my birthday gift, and she tried to persuade our parents, but they couldn't do much because it was from our grandparents. That night, knowing that I am very afraid of spiders, Lisa put a house spider in my pillowcase, making sure I would find it when I went to sleep. I woke up with the terrifying feeling of a spider crawling on my skin and started screaming. My parents rushed to my room, and Lisa acted surprised and concerned, but later, when she was alone, she admitted with a creepy smile that she put the spider there to teach me a lesson. I was shocked by her casual admission without remorse. Another time I remember was when I had a crush on a classmate, Mark, and I finally mustered up the courage to invite him over to my house to watch a movie. I was very excited and carefully chose an outfit to impress him. But as soon as Mark arrived at our house, Lisa deliberately spilled a glass of juice on me and started laughing at me. I was even more embarrassed and had to change clothes while trying to hide my embarrassment. As if that wasn't enough, Lisa started telling Mark embarrassing stories from my childhood, making me feel extremely humiliated. She didn't let us watch the movie alone, and when Mark was about to leave, Lisa mockingly told him that he could find someone better than me. Mark felt uncomfortable the whole time and left in a hurry. I just couldn't believe my sister could be so cruel and cunning. Over the years, I told my parents about her behavior many times, but they always thought she was young and ignorant, and they couldn't see her true face. Whenever I complained, they always dismissed me, thinking I was the troublemaker in the family, so I eventually stopped talking about her. Lisa continued to be their favorite, and I, usually straightforward, often felt like an outsider in the family. I focused on my studies and managed to get into a good university, which gave me a chance to move out of our house and have a better college life. However, every time I went home for the holidays, Lisa made it clear that she didn't like me coming back to the house. She would deliberately ignore me, refuse to participate in even the most basic family meal conversations, and she would avoid sitting next to me or interrupt me if I was talking to our parents. Her constant need to undermine my presence to prove that she hated me being around and was determined to make my visits as uncomfortable as possible. Lisa even often messed up my things, pretending she needed to borrow something, but often damaging them or losing them. When I tried to complain, my parents did nothing and instead urged us to get along. As a result, I started to avoid going home for the holidays, and I would make excuses to spend the holidays with the families of my college friends. To be honest, my parents didn't mind much, thinking I was independent and wanted to enjoy some time away from home. When Lisa graduated from high school, she didn't have the grades for college, so she chose a community college. This meant she never left our parents' place. Now, I work at a multinational company in San Francisco, and I really like my job. I sometimes keep in touch with my parents, but I rarely go home. I don't maintain any contact with Lisa at all. Now, let's talk about this story. My father recently had a near-fatal heart attack. Fortunately, he miraculously survived and was rushed to the hospital. When my mother called to tell me, I immediately booked a flight and flew back to be with them. The doctor prescribed my father with multiple medications and strongly recommended that he start exercising after being discharged. My father expressed a desire to spend more time with his family and told me he was lucky to be saved from the brink of death. I understood my dad's position, so I stayed at home for a few more days. My job has the option of remote work, so it's not a problem. However, I noticed Lisa was very uneasy about me coming back. I tried my best to avoid her because now that we're all older, I don't want to argue. One morning at breakfast, my father suggested that our whole family go on vacation together because it's been a long time since we've all been somewhere together. I was initially hesitant, but knowing how important it was to my dad, I agreed. As for Lisa, she was not enthusiastic about it, but she had no choice but to participate in my father's plan. My father made all the arrangements for our flights and accommodations. I planned my vacation in advance and informed my colleagues not to contact me during this time because I really wanted to enjoy the precious time with my parents. However, when we arrived at the airport, I found that my ticket had been cancelled. I exchanged puzzled looks with my father, who insisted that he had booked and paid for my ticket. When we checked further, we found that among the 4 tickets, the one with my name on it had been mysteriously cancelled. As I stood there trying to understand the situation, I looked at Lisa, whose face bore a sly smile, the same expression I had seen many times before when she had successfully pulled off one of her manipulative tricks. I realized at that moment that it was her who cancelled my ticket, probably from my father's computer. I started yelling at her, and she just stood there smiling at me. I pointed out to my parents that this was Lisa's doing because she didn't want me to go on this family vacation from the start. But instead of believing me, my mother immediately dismissed my claim, saying that your sister would never do such a thing. She continued to tell me that I should stop being jealous of my sister, and that my ticket being cancelled was just a strange accident. My father also tried to argue that it might be the airline's mistake, and I shouldn't blame my sister. I was very frustrated that my parents couldn't understand that their beloved miracle child could be the mastermind behind such deception. At this point, there was nothing I could do, my ticket had already been cancelled, and there were no other flights that day. Although it might be possible to catch a flight the next day, I didn't want to go home, book a new flight, and travel alone. After all, this was supposed to be a family trip. I was also afraid of sharing a room with Lisa during the trip. I hoped she had matured over the years, but if she was the mastermind behind my flight cancellation, I couldn't help but wonder what other plans she might have to make my trip miserable. My father was initially hesitant, suggesting they could go home and plan another trip later. But then he started talking about how long it had been since he had gone on vacation. My mother agreed and told me that I travel a lot for work anyway, so I wouldn't miss much by not going on this trip. Their words really hurt me, making me feel like they wanted me to insist on them continuing the vacation without me. I told them they could go on the vacation if they wanted, and they readily agreed. Although I didn't want the money they spent on tickets and rooms to go to waste, I was sad that they didn't care whether I joined them or not. Now it was clear that they didn't mind going on this family vacation as a family of 3. So I stood at the airport, my parents and Lisa heading to their long-awaited vacation. I decided to go back to my home in San Francisco, not wanting to spend another day alone in our family house. I tried my best to put this behind me and focus on enjoying the work I was already on vacation from. I reconnected with old friends, indulged in books all day, and turned my time off into a solo retreat. During the trip, my parents sometimes video called me, and I could see how much they enjoyed the trip without me. It was as if my absence didn't really affect their trip. Although I wasn't heartbroken about missing the vacation, I couldn't help but feel excluded. This was just another reminder of the favoritism that has always existed in our family. I hoped that one day they would see Lisa's true face, and I think my wish finally came true. A few days into their vacation, I woke up to find that my mother had missed several calls, worried that my father's health might have suddenly deteriorated. I immediately called back. Thankfully, she answered, but she sounded very distressed. I asked if everything was okay, and she went on to explain that something very disturbing had happened. Apparently, my parents had noticed that my father's daily essential heart medication was disappearing. Given my father's fragile health, he couldn't afford to miss his medication, which was a worrying situation. They were in a foreign country and didn't know if the same medication was available outside the United States. They were sincerely worried about the missing pills and searched everywhere in their room, but to no avail. My mother went to Lisa's hotel room, right next to theirs, to borrow some sunscreen while Lisa was out. To her complete shock and dismay, she found all the missing medication carefully hidden in Lisa's bedside table. It was a chilling revelation, and she immediately called my father. He rushed in and found all the missing medication that had been gone for days. I guess this is when they realized that their beloved daughter, the so-called miracle child, had been deliberately endangering my father's health, putting him at great risk. My mother's voice trembled as she asked if they should confront Lisa about it. I told her not to talk to Lisa about it until they got home. They needed to gather their thoughts, emotions, and evidence to confront Lisa with undeniable truth. I knew it would be futile to talk to Lisa now because she is a master manipulator and might fabricate excuses to evade responsibility. However, something unexpected must have happened, and KN and my parents must have confronted her. I received a late-night call from my father, his voice trembling, telling me that Lisa was in jail. I was shocked. He recounted that when they asked about the medication, Lisa flew into a rage, throwing things and shouting. Her anger was mainly directed at my father, accusing him of booking my flight when he should never have allowed me to join their family vacation. She told them that if they continued to maintain a relationship with me, she would give them a lesson they would never forget. Lisa continued to vent, and the situation quickly escalated until someone at the hotel called the authorities. When the police arrived, she refused to calm down and insulted them, leading to her detention. Lisa would be released in 24 hours, and my parents could do nothing for now. After Lisa was released, my parents tried to rearrange their flight, but their plans were thwarted when they found that their passports and wallets were missing. It turned out that Lisa had either discarded their passports or hidden them, and now they were stranded in a foreign country without passports or wallets. I guess this was the first time my parents began to see the true face of my sister. My mother, who had defended Lisa for years, now pleaded for my help because they had no money or documents to fly out. She was overwhelmed, shocked, and pained by the realization of the true face of her angelic daughter. I told them not to worry, I would send them money through Western Union, but they had to find their passports first so they could go home. I was sure Lisa hadn't discarded them. My parents finally realized that I had been telling the truth all along, about her behavior, and were grateful for my help in not taking me on vacation. They apologized for their behavior, and part of me wanted to forgive my parents, but it was hard to shake off the feeling of being deprived of their love for so many years due to their preference for my sister. So I didn't forgive my parents, they went on vacation without me, and now they came back begging for my forgiveness. Update 1: My parents call me every day, telling me about their situation, and I am increasingly anxious about their predicament. You see, the day after Lisa was released, my parents threatened her to either return their passports or they would call the police again. Faced with no other choice, Lisa finally revealed where she had hidden the passports. After they returned home, my parents confronted Lisa and made it clear that she needed to pack her things and leave. It has become very clear that they have reached their breaking point and finally realized the truth about their daughter's manipulative and harmful behavior. She might endanger his health again by stealing his medication. This triggered another screaming match between Lisa and my parents. During this confrontation, Lisa began to hurl accusations at her parents, expressing her anger and resentment. She told her parents that she didn't want to share them with anyone else and claimed that she was pushed to the wall when they invited me on the trip. She kept insisting that her parents should abandon me, emphasizing that she was enough for the two of them. It was at this moment that my parents must have realized the depth of her jealousy and the extent of her resentment towards my place in the family. Although they tried to placate her, she continued to yell at them, and in desperation and anger, she claimed that she would go around saying that they neglected her as a child and abused her during her formative years. She was basically about to accuse them of negligence. Then Lisa threatened to call the police and make false statements against our parents if they continued to demand that she move out. This really scared my parents because these fabricated accusations would put them in a difficult position, especially since they are respected doctors in our community. The thought of their reputation being destroyed by false accusations made them feel trapped and anxious. In the past few days, Lisa has continued to make life increasingly difficult for my parents. When she found out that they now often talk to me, she was very angry and began to break dishes in anger. What's worse, she constantly steals their car keys and hides them, making it difficult for them to go to work every day. Just tonight, my mother called me in tears after another bad incident at dinner. Lisa flew into a rage, yelling at them because she wanted her mother to cook for her. When she refused because she was too tired from work, Lisa began to break furniture in the house, and then she went back to her room and turned the music up so loud that it prevented our parents from getting a good night's sleep. The situation is constantly deteriorating, causing emotional and psychological stress for my parents. I am increasingly worried about what might happen next. Although I had hoped that my parents would see Lisa's true face, now I worry that she may pose a real threat to them. I can't even go home now because it might further trigger her and lead to more intense confrontations. I am trying my best to persuade my parents to consult a lawyer so that we can find a permanent solution to this ongoing crisis. Legal action seems to be the best way to protect my parents and restore peace to our family. Update 2. As many people predicted, Lisa has been arrested. With Lisa's escalating behavior, this was bound to happen. One night, during a big fight, she rushed at our parents with a knife. This frightened my parents, forcing them to call the police. The officers quickly detained her and arrested her for assault. After Lisa was taken into custody, my parents decided it was time to pursue a more permanent solution. They consulted a lawyer who advised them on the legal process of evicting her from the home. They submitted a formal eviction notice, stating that she had to leave. They knew it wouldn't be easy, but it was necessary to make things safer. My parents didn't want to press any charges against her because they just wanted her to move out. They bailed her out of jail, gave her a formal notice, and told her she had to leave. It included all the legal explanations for why she had to go and the time she needed to leave. My parents made sure they followed the rules so that Lisa couldn't challenge it. Next, they went to court with their lawyer to start the eviction process. This meant filing a lawsuit against Lisa. It was difficult for my parents because she was their own daughter, and they felt very sad and guilty, as if they had no choice. The court eventually issued an official order stating that Lisa had to leave the house. If she didn't leave voluntarily, they would have the legal right to make her leave the property. Lisa is going to be out next week, and my parents can finally breathe a sigh of relief, knowing they have taken a step towards restoring their home and peace. It's been a tough road, but they hope things will get better once Lisa is gone. I have been in touch with them throughout this ordeal and plan to take them to San Francisco in the coming weeks. It's a way to give them a break and relax, to give them some time away from the stress caused by Lisa. Moreover, it will be an opportunity for us to spend some quality time together, and I want to support them as much as I can. Update 3. I have received hundreds of comments under the post, and it took me some time to go through begging to open up to me, their voices filled with humility and regret. They admitted that they had turned a blind eye to Lisa's true nature for many years and asked for my forgiveness. My father expressed his regret for not heeding my warnings sooner. He acknowledged that they never anticipated Lisa would become this way, unable to see the truth hidden beneath her charming facade. My mother echoed my father's sentiments, admitting the grave mistake they had made by disregarding my concerns about Lisa's behavior over the years. Her voice trembled as she expressed the pain of realizing how they had failed me by favoring her. I let them know that I appreciated them taking the first step in seeking my forgiveness. I shared several painful memories, as I had borne the brunt of the pain caused by Lisa's actions alone. My parents were shocked and disheartened to hear this, astounded by the extent of what I had endured. They acknowledged the pain I had been through and expressed regret for the isolation I felt within our own family. My parents reflected that their favoritism towards Lisa had clouded their judgment, as they had never expected to have her and always saw her as their miracle baby. Their voices were filled with sincerity as they asked for my forgiveness for all those years. It was a bittersweet moment because I had longed for their recognition, and although this might not be the ideal way to mend our relationship, it was a turning point that brought much-needed honesty and clarity to our family dynamics. For the first time in years, we truly acknowledged the issues that had plagued our family. I told them that I needed some time to trust them again, and we agreed to work on this issue together. Now, I plan to make the most of the time I have with my family, as they are with me for the next few days. Update 4. As the days pass, my parents and I spend more time together, exploring the bustling streets of San Francisco, enjoying leisurely meals, and simply relishing each other's company. Reconnecting has been a considerable journey, rebuilding the bonds that have been worn away by years of favoritism and denial. I began to understand that their comfort in being with me was not just about the physical distance from Lisa, but a desire to rebuild the family they had almost lost. They needed a fresh start, and so did I. My parents and I have since discussed how to handle Lisa. She is currently staying with one of her friends. We can't simply abandon her, despite the chaos she has caused in our lives. As parents, my mom and dad feel a profound sense of responsibility for their daughter, even if her actions are unforgivable. We came to the realization that her behavior might not just be intentional mischief, but could indicate deeper issues at play. We plan to explore the possibility of a mental health evaluation to better understand her condition. However, since Lisa is an adult, we cannot force her into such an evaluation and plan to find a way to encourage her to seek help voluntarily. My parents plan to contact Lisa when they return home to see if she is willing to discuss this. I do not wish to contact her, as she still harbors intense resentment towards me, and I try not to exacerbate the situation for the sake of her mental health, considering what has transpired. Given the past attacks and violent incidents, I encouraged my parents to meet with her in public places, where she would be forced to control her emotions. Our primary goal is to make Lisa understand our perspective and, most importantly, to recognize the deep love and concern we have for her. It's not about blame, but about coming together as a family to address the issues that have strained our relationships. This has been a long and arduous journey, but with time, patience, and understanding, we hope to find a resolution that will allow us to move forward as a family, stronger and more united than before.